Okay, welcome to a very special episode. Are these episodes? Uh, of whatever this is, this YouTube channel. What's it called? The Collection. Sorry, I'm striking the wrong tone here for how I'm feeling. David Lynch died today. I freaking loved David Lynch. I know this is a book channel, but until recently I owned more David Lynch books, and The Wizard of Oz is on there for a reason. I know he didn't write that. But here's something he adapted into a movie. But I honestly think he might be just among the very most influential artists in my life from any medium. You know, book writers don't live in a vacuum. We're influenced by everything, right? And film is very influential, and TV today, I think it's influenced books quite a bit. You can tell everything's gotten more narrative. You get authors like Cormac McCarthy that got to the point where their books were basically screenplays, and some of them had been screenplays before, like No Country for Old Men. Anyway, Lynch has had a tremendous influence on me, I'm sure. How could he not have? Just because he's such a master of tone and he draws so much attention. I still speak in the present tense, like we speak of the literary greats in the present tense because they're alive in their work, you know? But this is a director that just, draws such feeling and tone out of everything. And I mean, Lynchian, there's a word that this guy created. But Lynch has been a part of my whole life. Even as a kid, I remember watching The Elephant Man. You know, such a compelling and beautiful story. And it was nominated for an Oscar. And that's based on two nonfiction books. And the way that those actors talk about it, especially John Hurt, just sounds like, boy, they were channeling this time. Anthony Hopkins, too. And they just brought that to life and to such a beautiful, moving tribute to a human being. I can't freaking watch that trailer without just being like, oh, what a human, gorgeous story. Love it. But, and then he did Dune. And the 1984 Dune is actually good, the movie of this. I'm ashamed to say I have not yet read the book, but I'm going to. And I love all the movies, and I'm like into the Dune lore. It's very interesting. There was that YouTube channel, probably still exists. Oh, what was that guy's name? I want to say it was called Quinn's Ideas, but it was just this one well-read Dune fanatic putting all the lore together, and I'm like, this is such great lore. I love it. I love like a well-developed world, and it's so interesting because it's sci-fi, but in the far future, and Earth's cultures have all merged into one. And Lynch's movie version is good, and it does justice to it. I think all the flaws of the movie version, I think all of them are because it was too short. The studio insisted it be 2 hours, and you can just feel how brisk it's moving, and it's not spending the time probably that it needs to establish certain things. But once you are familiar with that world, it kind of doesn't matter. Through the transmedia experience of all these different forms of things. That's kind of how we absorb a lot of culture and literature now, right? But his movie is great. The digital armoring when they fight, like they turn on these digital shields, computer-generated shields, holographic or something. It looks great in the old one. It's all blocky, but it looks great. And the sandworms look fantastic. I love the new movies too, but Dune 1984 is good. But Lynch was so much more than just, and he had the opportunity to direct Return of the Jedi at one point, and he turned it down. I don't know how seriously that was offered, but I put the Wizard of Oz on here because the movie, the 1930s movie version, was a huge influence on him, and there's Oz-like literature throughout it all. I love the Oz books. They're fantastic. I mean, for children's literature, like for what they are. When you're a parent, you appreciate children's literature, and you recognize classic archetypes and things like that. These books are just great. When I was a kid, I wanted Oz to be real so strongly, and Narnia, and the Tripod Trilogy books. I don't know why that one, because aliens were ruling the earth. Anyway, but Lynch is just he is a great filmmaker and philosopher. This is someone that would meditate for 3.5 hours every single day. I don't know about a half. Where did I get a half? but like 3 hours every day. And he would go down to these deep depths and draw these insane, deep truths, I think, out of there, whether literal or symbolic. It almost feels like both because consciousness is such a big part of it. And he would often talk about consciousness and creativity. He would rarely elaborate on his works. He was like, people always want me to say things about the movies, but the movies are the things. And, his TV show, Twin Peaks, and the movie and the sequel show make just one of the great visual experiences that exist, You put all three of those together, the lore is so interesting. The mystery only deepens and broadens. It only feels like kind of more, it just feels realer and realer because he's dealing with these deep truths, like the deep emotions that you generate, they affect people, dang. I mean, it's powerful. You have this original series. It's quirky and fun, and it's great, and there's mystery to it, and it's all the good stuff is there. And you have this movie that is just like taking accountability for all the show's darker themes and elements, and just getting just so real with it, saying like, even if all the supernatural stuff is happening, this real stuff is happening too, and here's what that looks like. And then you have this sequel series that just deepens and broadens everything, asks bigger questions, and brings everybody back and does this full circle thing that is just incredible. But when Lynch really came into my life was with Eraserhead. Back in the day, I was a 90s teen. And back in the day, you got to have your video store, and you frequented the video store, and that's all you watched, whatever the video store had. So if you had like a lame video store near you that only had, the most mainstream basic stuff, and I like a lot of that stuff too, but that's that's what you were watching. And but we had a cool video store. We had East Mountain Videos up in the mountains, and they had a great independent film section, which was really weird because it was a pretty like blue collar video store for the most part. But then they were like also like, and here's some really weird stuff. And they had Eraserhead on VHS, and we had never seen anything like it, my then brother and I. And we just got addicted to it. And it was so strange and so weird. And we had a really smart brother-in-law at the time, my sister Leanne's husband, Phil, and he watched it with us and gave us this great like analysis of it about how it used associative logic, like a dreamlike logic to move instead of typical plot structure. And he got into the symbolism of it, and we were really like enlightened as to like, whoa, this thing is doing some really deep stuff. And my sibling got so into it, watched it every day, once or twice a day for a long time. Like I would at least a year. And so I saw it in its entirety probably 50 times during that time because I liked it also. And was, I don't know why anyone would watch anything that much, but kind of an interesting obsessive experiment. My son did that with Ready Player One later. Strange. The things that grab people. But anyway, this really weirded up our family's life. My sibling looked like this for a long time, had really high hair. And but anyway, from then on, I knew this guy was great. And when I went off to college, David Lynch movies were always played around college. It was really weird. I'd be hanging out with a bunch of jocks. And because I lived in this college dorm where they used personality tests to put everybody in the same place. So they're like, all the anti-authoritarian people, here you go. And so, yeah, how did that work, college? I don't think they did that again. But there would always be a Lynch movie on, Blue Velvet or Lost Highway, or it was mostly those two. But, here's his short films, which I inherited from my dad. My dad got dementia, and he's David Lynch's exact same age. So I was kind of thinking about him today, too. Maybe my feelings for Lynch are tied up with that a little bit. I think Bob Dylan's in there, too. Same age. I feel genuinely emotional about this. Lynch was a part of my art life. Like, one of the biggest... I can't remember the last time I got teary for a quote-unquote celebrity, somebody famous. I think it might have been Harvey Pekar. No, it was, or Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, sometimes you really get to know people through their work. And I love this guy. I like to have artists in your life that mean something. It's so cool. You know what I mean? Like, art's not nothing. It's something, Like, I mean, nature loves it. Think about cows running up when someone plays a guitar. Like, it's beautiful. It's order and beauty and, finding meaning in this crazy world and connection. And Lynch did that paradoxically with some really dark, weird movies sometimes, but there was always this core of love. And his writing was good too. I had his book about meditation around until recently. I think I got rid of it because it made me feel guilty for not ever doing meditation, but I know that would probably benefit my life. I'm easily bored. I'll do it someday. I tried it once. It was all right. Yeah, this makes me want to like cultivate a David Lynch collection. I'd like to have more books about him. I've always been interested in him as a Western artist too, because I feel like he puts big open spaces into his work. Like a lot of his work, like Twin Peaks, is Pacific Northwest, and then he's got California, LA, of course, but he's from Montana, and I think he lived in Idaho too. And so like, one of us, I chant in my Todd Browning Freaks voice, and the Intermountain West. That's a specific thing. If you live out here, it's also part of the suicide belt. Oh, thanks, University of Nevada. They called it that after a study. Well, it's one of the poorer parts of the country. It doesn't have a high population. I walked the length of the East Coast one time. Maybe I should just make a running joke of mentioning this all the time. And that's where most of the people are, And out here, it's a way lower per capita realm. Anyway, I feel a little bit like a family member died today, like a super cool uncle, just like the best. I mean, I honestly feel about David Lynch the way I feel about Vincent van Gogh and Dostoevsky. I'm just like my favorites, just like just great people. We were really lucky to be on this planet with David Lynch, making art fresh. I saw Mulholland Drive in theaters. I saw The Straight Story in theaters. I've seen most of his movies in theater now on re-release, but gosh, what a creator, what a loss. I think it was the LA fires that killed him directly, probably. I mean, the dude has emphysema. I was, disturbed by the news story that he was like really would probably never direct again. That was a few months ago, I think, because of his emphysema. And anyway, then suddenly he's in the world's biggest smoke cloud, in the biggest smoke cloud of LA history, Dude's in Southern California. So that couldn't have helped. I mean, atmospheric and geographic stuff does affect people. For instance, my brother, Matt, much older, he had all kinds of messed up health problems. And then there was a huge hurricane. He was living in Saipan, this island in the Marianas Islands. And this massive hurricane, messed with barometric pressure. And I think it had a huge factor in him going. His wife had died just 6 months before, and they said he also had broken heart syndrome. Like his heart just had no will to beat. But, anyway, so I think the LA fires could have totally contributed to Lynch's. And, I felt like he was someone that would always be around. Maybe I took him for granted. But, God, what a creator. What an artist, The world lost a great one today. Though I gotta say, when I told my oldest daughter, who's 19, she's like, I think old people should die. I'm like, come on, kid, have some empathy, Jeez, I think Lynch would be amused at that. But she's like, but he was a real one. He did good stuff. So I appreciate that. Oh, and she said something beautiful. She said, I bet the lady in the radiator is singing In Heaven to him now. And I think that's true. Because who knows with consciousness? What's going on there, man? And that movie, Express Truths, I think all his works are also like part of a David Lynch MCU. They're all kind of connected. Twin Peaks: The Return kind of did that. But he had been setting up those elements from the beginning. I mean, the zigzag carpets, um, less colorful than that one. They appeared in Eraserhead, you know? And I bet this one has a book about it. I also inherited this one from my dad. I should be more of a completist. I'm really not. Maybe it's like, you don't think to stock up on air or something. He's just always a part of my... I also check things out from the library, too, as people should. And I watch things on streaming. We really are moving away from physical media. My friend Doug told me a number of years ago, he was like, he just got rid of everything except his DVDs. He had something like 40, he had so many DVDs. He had like tens of thousands, I think. Maybe 10,000. He had a lot of DVDs. I always thought, I've never met anyone in New Mexico with more books, more DVDs than this guy. But he used to have a lot of books also and CDs. And one day he was like, I'm just going to pick one thing. And I've kind of done that with books too. I used to have a great CD collection, a bigger DVD collection, and a VHS collection of like 300. But, stuff goes away. Sad when people we love do, though. David Lynch, thank you, man. I feel like I want to write you a song, like Bob Dylan's Song to Woody or something. That's how much I appreciate and love you, man. You're just such a beautiful, awesome artist in my life. I know people know. I've been looking at YouTube, and there's people chattering about it. This person was powerful, They were powerful as a person, as an artist, and they realized that they're, there's just no lines between that, really, if you do it right. And, David Lynch made his whole life his art. And that's the real artist's way, Those, if you know, like, being an artist is easy. All you have to give is your whole life. Who said that? Picasso, somebody. I mean, I love that quote. I should look it up. I actually tried to find who said that quote, but I know I read it somewhere. Unfortunately, I think it was in one of those research books, which are not always digitized or available in an online search, and I can't remember which one. But Lynch, man, I could do, like, if this was a documentary and I could go back through my life and do a montage of moments, there would be so many times watching David Lynch at so many different points in my life. Falling asleep in Mulholland Drive in 2001. It was not your fault. I fell asleep in every movie. Seeing The Straight Story and seeing that Disney logo come up beforehand, my sibling and I just cracking up. What? David Lynch? Disney Presents? Amazing. Hiking through Lynchburg, Virginia, and that's all we talked about was David Lynch with all those hikers. You think his ancestors lived here or something? Anyway, R.I.P. to a real one. He's continuing his transcendental meditation trip right now, probably. But, the guy lives on. What? This is a poor thing to survey here, because he had many more movies. And there's a list of his movies: Eraserhead, The Elephant Man, Dune, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, Lost Highway, The Straight Story. And then after that, he had Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire. And Twin Peaks: The Return, which he sometimes called an 18-hour movie, which it kind of is. This has been an 18-minute YouTube video. All right. R.I.P. David Lynch. I'm going to literally pour one out for you tonight. Thank you for all that beautiful art, my friend. And the rest of us, I really do think it's good to have just a moment, to acknowledge when, like, someone really meaningful goes, that we all had this amazing parasocial relationship with, and this very real relationship with his art. And the collaborative art he made with so many people. Ugh. Incredible, man. I'm a teacher, and today, as soon as I heard this news, all my students, all day long, all they watched were Lynch trailers and interviews about him and interviews by him. And we talked about art, and it was a conversation that flowed and was effortless because they knew they were like getting some real talk. And I got real talk back from them too. It was good. But I'm happy to introduce them all to this great artist. Sad it's on the occasion of his passing. All right. R.I.P.